In this screencast, I'm going to do two examples from section 3.7 homework from Blitzer's textbook in Math Excel. Here's the fifth one. Okay, this one is a variation problem. It says the amount of gas that a helicopter uses is directly proportional to the number of hours spent flying. Okay, it seems pretty reasonable. What you want to look for in these problems is the phrase directly proportional to or varies directly as. The quantity that comes before that statement you want to let be the y variable or the dependent variable. The quantity that comes after that you want to be the independent variable. Okay, so in this case we're going to let y be the amount of gas the helicopter uses in gallons, the x be the number of hours spent flying, or you can make up whatever letters you so choose. Then we're going to use the given information. The helicopter's flying for 3 hours and then uses 33 gallons of fuel to figure out the constant of proportionality. And then finally, after we do that, answer the question: how far or how much fuel are you going to use if you fly for 6 hours? Okay, so let's write this out. So whenever you see a direct proportion, you're going to think the two quantities, y and x, or two variables, are just off by a constant. Right? So we can write y is equal to k times x. Alright, so again we want to declare our variables. We want the dependent variable y to be what comes before the statement directly proportional to, which in that case was the amount of gas used. Okay, that's going to be in gallons. You're going to let x equal the amount of time spent flying. Okay, which is the number of hours. So the units on y are gallons, the units on x are number of hours flying. Alright, now we're given in the problem that if x is equal to 3 hours, that is, if you fly for 3 hours, then you're going to use 33 gallons of gas. Okay, remember the units on x are hours, the units on y are gallons. So putting into our equation up here, into our proportion equation, you got y is 33, x is equal 3. Now you can solve for the unknown k. That's a linear equation. Divide by 3 and you get k is 11. Right after you do that, make sure you substitute immediately in to your equation. Put the constant of proportionality in. That gives you y is equal to 11 times x. So now to answer the question, if x is 6 hours, well, you want to know what y is, plug into the formula. You get y is equal to 11 times 6, which is 66 gallons used if you fly for 6 hours. And that's the answer to the question. So again, to recap, what you're going to do, you always want to start out with your proportion equation, determine the constant of proportionality using the given information, plug that into your equation, then answer the question. Okay, so let's go look at a different one. All right, let's take a look at number 7 here. This is saying that the weight, they're giving you the variable, in this case is w, of an object varies inversely as the square of the distance d from the center of the earth. So remember, whenever you see the varies directly as or varies inversely as, what comes before that you want to let be the dependent variable. What comes after that you want to let be the independent variable. Okay, or what comes before it you want to let be y. What comes after it you want to let be x, or whatever they're giving you in this case. Okay, and then they're telling us at sea level, which is this many miles, 3,978 miles from the center of the earth, the astronaut weighs 122 pounds. The question you want to answer eventually is that if you're 224 miles above the surface of the earth, that's very far up in the atmosphere, what's the weight going to be? You know, it's going to be less due to being further away. You're not going to have as much gravity pulling on you towards the center of the earth. So our answer has to be less than 122 pounds. Okay, so what we're going to do is set this up. We've got a proportion equation. So we're going to have w is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. Okay, so we're going to write that equation down, plug the given information in to figure out the constant of proportionality, and then answer the question. Okay. Alright, so then write down the equation that we're looking at. In this case, y is equal to k over x squared, because one of the expressions is inversely proportional to, means it's going to be the reciprocal, or comparable to the reciprocal of a certain quantity. In this case, it's comparable to the reciprocal of the square of the distance from the center of the Earth. Now, they're giving us variables in the problem, so it's probably better for us to write W instead of Y and D, the distance of the center of the Earth, as X. Okay. We always want to make our declaration, and we want to declare what our variable is so we keep things straight in the problem. That's very important to do, especially when you're talking about proportional to a square or inversely proportional to a power. That's crucial to do that. So we're going to let W be the weight, D be the distance. Using those letters is kind of indicative of what the quantity is. Remember, it's distance from the center of the Earth. Now we're given in the problem that if D, the distance from the center of the Earth, is 3,978 miles, you're on the surface of the Earth, then your weight, the astronaut's weight, is 122 pounds. So plug that into the formula. 122 is equal to K over 3,978 squared. To solve for K, we're going to multiply both sides by this quantity, or cross multiply, and you get K is equal to 122 times 3,978 squared. Now that's a large number. Don't mess around with that. Don't bother putting it in your calculator. It's too big. Just write it down. Just leave it as it is, and then compute it at the end. But remember, whenever you find the constant of proportionality, what you want to do is take that and substitute that into your equation. Just like when you found the slope, when you find the equation of a line, you plug it right in. You plug your constant immediately in. Okay, so there's our relationship between W and D. Now to answer the question, we're just going to plug in. Okay, but they're telling us, this is a typo here, if you're 224 miles above the surface of the Earth, not feet, then, well, what's that equivalent to? How far, what's D going to be for 224 miles above the surface? You're going to be 4,202 miles from the center of the Earth. Okay, if you're 224 miles above the surface, and the surface is sea level, which is 3,978, you're a total of 4,202 miles. So now this is saying if D is equal to 4,202, then what's W? Well, plug it in for D and then compute. If you plug in D is equal to 4,202 and then use your calculator to approximate this answer, you're going to get this is about 109.339. Okay, continue to write it out if you want to, but that's the answer to our question. Again, we found Okay, just to recap what we did, we wrote the equation down, we plugged in the given information, found the constant of proportionality, rewrote the proportion equation, and then plugged in our independent variable, D in this case, in, and answered the question. So our answer is 109.3395525, or however many decimal places you want to round to, pounds.